And I think you said something else, and I really liked that piece when you said appreciation goes a long way. It really does. When's the last time you just said thank you to your teacher, you know?
Everybody, welcome to the Reboot Something podcast. My name's Chad Jeffries, your host. I have Brandon Downey here on my left, CEO of Trilogy. And over here we have Amber Nichols. Thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you for having me. I'm really excited about this conversation.
Likewise. Yeah. So for those of you that don't know, Amber is doing a lot of work in the state of West Virginia for the K-12 education. She is 2023 West Virginia Teacher of the Year. So congratulations on that.
Thank you.
Teacher of the Year.
Yes.
That's I know, right?
I love that.
Awesome.
Absolutely. Should we stand up? And
That'd be great.
Absolutely.
Listen, I thought about it. But I figured I should just sit here and be patient, right?
Absolutely. So I think it was quoted that you were a true representation of the state of West Virginia and the incredible teachers, around the state. And so we're excited to get through this, topic of K through 12 and ultimately empowering the state of West Virginia and moving to higher education and retaining those folks ultimately in the great work that companies like Trilogy and other businesses around the state do to support, federal operations, IT. There's so much to talk about. So let's go ahead and dive in.
Let's do it.
So you didn't start your career as an educator. So kind of talk to me about your journey and we'll go from there.
Sure. I always knew I wanted to impact the lives of students and children. I just thought that was going to be in a broadcasting career. So my end goal was to be a content creator for public broadcasting. I wanted to be in children's programming and be working for PBS. And so I majored in mass communications at Shepherd College, and I married my high school sweetheart. Shepherd College.
Yeah. I'm from Charlestown.
Oh,
I'm just down the road.
Love
Absolutely.
That. Yes.
You know, my best friend from high school. I was there often. It's probably there every weekend.
Really?
Spending time. He only lived maybe a mile or two outside the actual campus downtown.
Love it. Not many people know Shepherd, so that's great.
Right. Yeah, that's Travis Bajan, quarterback. It was funny.
Casey is my sorority sister.
Right. So, are you serious?
Yeah.
So they were talking about him when they were doing Hard Knocks for the Chicago Bears.
Yes.
And the commentators were like, I had to look up where Shepherd College was. Yes. They didn't know.
Yes.
Right. So,
yeah.
But yeah, that's small.
Great community. Shepherd was just a blessing. Yes. I loved it there. I got a great education, mass communications. It was close to DC, so I had a lot of opportunity, in going into the city and doing some broadcasting. Loved it, fell in love with it. I married my high school sweetheart. He is much more intelligent than I am. He went to the Naval Academy, was an officer in the Marine Corps, and our first duty station was Yuma, Arizona. It's a border town just 3 miles north of Mexico, and I attempted to do some broadcasting there, but it just wasn't happening for me. In Arizona, you can be a teacher with a 4-year degree, so I got my provisional, and I started working in an elementary school teaching communication skills. So I taught kids, Excel, PowerPoint, giving presentations from kindergarten through 6th grade. Kind of made an impression on administration, and they tapped me to be the new kindergarten teacher when the beloved kindergarten teacher at our school had breast cancer and wasn't returning. So my first day of teaching kindergarten was on September 11th, 2001. Wow. And Yuma is a military town, so it kind of shook us to our core. And I remember the principal calling all the military spouses to the office, and there were 7 of us. And this is my first day of teaching. I've been married for less than a year. And she says, if you need to go home and take care of the affairs at your home, being a military spouse, go ahead, we'll cover your class. And I was like, what are we going to do here, guys? Kind of looking around, waiting. And there is a ranking with military wives as well. Yeah. And so I looked to the lieutenant colonel's wife, and she said, no. We're here for the kids, and we have each other. And it was this ultimate mic drop, and I just marched right back into my classroom, and I loved on my kids. And that mantra of we are here for the kids and we have each other carried me through my 20 plus years in education, because that's really what it's about. It's about building communities and showing our kids that you're not alone. Yeah. And that single phrase just changed the trajectory of not only my career, but my life. And it's kind of just become something that I've lived by. And from then on, I went to get my master's and, pursuing my doctorate now in education. And I just have formed this passion for public education. Coming back after my husband was finished with his military career, we wanted to settle down in West Virginia. I'm from West Virginia. I'm a proud West Virginian. And now I want to pour into every facet of public education that I can.
Wow. And that's what makes you the Teacher of the Year.
Well, thanks. It's, teachers don't get into this business for recognition. So it's still awkward, after all my travels, to still be recognized for something that I just love to do.
Right.
Yeah. So, what inspired you to become an educator?
I'm from Doddridge County, so I'm from a really rural area of West Virginia. I'm a Head Start kid, so I started education at 3, and I've had loving teachers just pour into my life since I was 3 years old. It shaped who I've become as a person. I've had educators that have, encouraged me to take risks, to step outside of myself, and I wanted to be that for someone else. I wanted to be that person in someone else's life.
Mm-hmm. Where did you start? Obviously you started, but I guess in West Virginia. Where'd you start your career?
Sure. Well, we came back home soon after my husband's military career was over. We came back home, so I've taught in Arizona and Pennsylvania. We came back here. I was actually at Cheat Lake and Easton Elementary before Easton was turned into Eastwood. I started in special education, found a really big passion for helping our special needs population. Then we kind of went back to Charlestown. I taught in Charlestown for a little while, and then we moved back to Morgantown, and I was at Eastwood Elementary teaching kindergarten ever since. So my experience is in kindergarten and special education.
Awesome. Tell us about Global Game Changers. So you're the national ambassador for West Virginia for Global Game Changers. Tell us about what that is and your activities that you've been involved in over the past year.
So when you're Teacher of the Year, you get a lot of curriculum passed through you. People want you to promote different things. And, I had a lot of things kind of pass by my desk. And when Global Game Changers came onto my desk, it was a no-brainer for me. It is a free service-based social and emotional curriculum for students K through 6. And what it teaches our kids is that they can grow their social and emotional learning skills through service-based projects, which I have been a proponent of service-based education since I started. In kindergarten, my kids would do at least 5 service projects a year, based on their interests, based on what was going on in our community. It's a chance for our students, no matter the age, no matter the ability level, to step outside themselves and give back to their community. And what Global Game Changers does is it uses that service-based approach for talent acquisition. So, one of their 12 service projects a year that our kids do. In kindergarten, everyone either wants to be a YouTuber or a veterinarian.
You're right about that. You are so right about that.
It's true, right?
It's very true.
So the service project for the animal unit is a huge win for my kids. And so, it's really exploring those talent skills and what do you want to do when you grow up? And it gives them this wide variety. Yes, you may want to be a veterinarian, but let's look at the technology side. Let's look at the green spaces. There's a huge veteran unit, which I'm a huge fan of, my husband being a veteran, and our kids get to really explore that connection with veterans. So I fell in love with Global Game Changers and the fact that it's a free curriculum for all teachers. I mean, what is free anymore? There's an online component. They send you all of the supplies that you need. So I could talk about Global Game Changers all day.
Yeah, that's awesome.
Yeah.
Right.
And most people don't know about these things. So that's really like why we created this platform, was to get those messages out there and really showcase the great work that West Virginia is doing.
Well, go onto globalgamechangers.org and just sign up, and you will get all of the goods that you need to really start that in your classroom. And it's, we're talking about social and emotional health and how important that is to our students all throughout, but especially now in our world. And this is a great way to really address those issues.
Yeah. So what are the most pressing issues that teachers in West Virginia are facing right now?
I think the most pressing issue is teacher burnout. Our teachers are leaving us within the first 5 years. I mean, those rates are anywhere from 50 to 60%.
Wow.
So teacher retention is a huge problem for us. It's a huge problem nationally, but especially in the state of West Virginia. When teachers can go to other states, especially being close to Pennsylvania or Maryland, the Eastern Panhandle, we saw that at growing rates. Our teachers were going to Virginia and making $20,000 more.
Right.
So I say teacher retention, teacher burnout is huge. And, we look, why are teachers, facing burnout? Teaching has become this, it used to be you taught content and that was all. And now it's becoming, you are the social worker, you are the nurse, you are, really building relationships with these kiddos that we don't know what they go home to.
Yeah.
As our world is changing, the focus of education has changed as well, which is great because our kids do need that multifaceted person, but it's also a lot and it's very taxing on our educators.
Absolutely.
Can I ask just a quick question here? You said you worked in Arizona, Pennsylvania, West Virginia. What has been the difference? If you can, identify 1-2 things that have been the difference between those various states, what has been the biggest one?
Yeah, I think, depending on which state you're in is what, Arizona, obviously being in a border town, we are dealing with a lot of language barriers, migrant workers, so it was very focused based on where we were in Arizona. I know the northern part of the state of Arizona, they were working on just trying to retain people and keeping them in the state of Arizona. Pennsylvania, when I was there, their big push was literacy because their literacy rates were falling behind. I think in West Virginia, we're talking a lot about access to technology, broadband, and that's a huge issue for us. I think we also are talking about just keeping our kids in the state, getting our kids the appropriate resources. We are blessed in Monongalia County. As I've traveled the state, I almost felt guilty in giving these speeches where I'm talking about social and emotional health when all of our schools in Monongalia County are equipped with a nurse, a social worker, a school psychologist, outreach facilitators. I worked in a school with 2 counselors, and we're talking about counties in which there's one of those for multiple schools. So we are so blessed here in Monongalia County, but I would say West Virginia as a whole is really struggling for the resources, not our county, but as a whole.
It's kind of interesting, and I want everyone to know that when it comes to states and their education system, every state has something that they're trying to improve upon.
Absolutely.
They have their own challenges, their own struggles, and so forth. We're just one. We have our own. Hopefully, through conversation and so forth, we can actually identify some solutions as well.
I love that. That's a great point.
Yeah, absolutely. So how can states with, large rural populations, how can they address these learning opportunities?
Yeah, I'm all about building community. And that's the one thing, moving now that I'm out of the classroom and moving now more to the central office, building those connections with other communities and really reaching out for resources. I'm not surprised, but I am surprised at how many times Monongalia County is really tapped to help another county that might be struggling in a certain way. And that's honestly been one of the beautiful parts of the new position that I'm in, is seeing the needs of other counties and how we are able to kind of walk alongside, even though we're doing our own thing here in Monongalia County, but really walking along other counties and reaching out in whatever way that we can.
Yeah. And how do you feel the technology is kind of shifting the education space?
It's wonderful because it's bringing connectivity. So many times jumping on a Teams call and working with McDowell County or Hancock County, and really just sharing our experiences and, our knowledge based. I'm learning constantly every day through connectivity. And I think in my new role, that's how I'm best using technology. And communications is a big part of what I do, and really getting out the storytelling of what's happening in our county has been beautiful, and putting that out technology wise has been a big thing for me as well.
Yeah,
that's huge. I mean, you think about West Virginia and the mountains. I mean, we're 1.8 million people over what I think we have 1 million square acres throughout the state, where we're so geographically dispersed, right? And the technology is actually making it seamless now, right, for us to tap into resources such as yourself into areas of the state that typically don't have those particular resources. So it's bringing us together
Yes.
on a much more of a digital scale, right?
Yeah.
And it's kind of interesting,
Yeah,
right?
I love it.
Yeah.
One of the big things that I took on as Teacher of the Year under the direction of the state superintendent was the Ready, Read, Write West Virginia campaign and increasing our literacy rates in the state of West Virginia. And one of the big ways that we did that was through teacher education. And most of my time as Teacher of the Year was spent online really educating other educators on the research in literacy. What are we seeing? What can we change? What's working? What's not working? And just being able to pick that call up and automatically be within in front of 300 educators
Right.
in Hancock County or in Jefferson County, I really think revolutionizes the way that we do things in education now.
You hit on something major there. We often think about education to students.
Yeah.
We also have to think about educating the teachers as well.
Agreed.
I mean, there's technology. I mean, especially in our field, Chad, you know this.
Yeah.
You know, it moves so quickly, and you know, we don't want our kids left behind. But we also need the educators moving just as quickly, adopting some of the latest technologies in order to train, assist the actual students from adopting and leveraging those in life itself. And so we also have to look at the teachers as well.
For sure.
Do you think that extends to parents as well?
Absolutely. That's one of the big things that I wanted to do during the Teacher of the Year was providing, online resources for parents, ways that they could get involved, ways that they could really look at education as a whole and how they could best assist their child to be the best learner possible. And that was a huge part of the Ready, Read, Write West Virginia campaign, was having an accessibility piece for parents. What could they do? Where are the nearest read alouds? What is the way that you do a proper read aloud with a child? What are the questions you should be asking after you read a story? What are the things you should be looking for if you think your child is facing a literacy problem? What are questions you could ask the teacher? How do you look at test scores and differentiate what is good, what is bad? In the education world, sometimes I think that we become, it's our lingo, but we don't understand that it's not parent lingo.
Right.
And that was a big piece for me, is really making just education accessible for everyone. We do focus so much on the students, as we should, but when we're looking at education as a whole, it takes a team, and parents are number one on that team. If you have a parent in your corner, the kid is good.
But it has to be reinforced.
Absolutely.
Right? It's like the teachers cannot be the only educators in your child's life.
For sure.
It has to be reinforced at home as well.
Absolutely.
Yeah. So as far as future educators, what message would you like to share with people who want to either become teachers with facing these challenges and the retention rate problems here?
Yeah, I would say if you have the call to be a teacher, you need to follow it.
Yeah.
I had that call in my heart my entire life, but I thought I could funnel it in a different way. I do believe that teaching is a calling, and if you have the call, you need to pursue it. I think that finding a mentor, finding a system, in any career, right?
Career,
You
yes.
need a mentor. I'm 20 plus years pretty successfully in this career, and I have a mentor that I still check in with weekly. I think it's really important that whatever you choose to do, but especially education, that you're constantly growing and seeking, a better version of who you were last week. I think that your students will become more successful when they see that you're growing as well.
Yeah.
So find a mentor, get locked into a teacher organization or a way that you can grow within yourself, but also really self-care. And I know that's a word that just gets tossed around so much these days, but it's really important. And I saw it a lot during my Teacher of the Year. I was traveling nationally and still, maintaining a classroom, and I'm a mom and a wife, and, self-care becomes something that if you don't do it, you will self-destruct.
Yeah.
So we, as a county in Monongalia County, we work really hard in boosting our educators. And we just started a program called Boost Our Educators. It's a little, a card that we've given to all of our professional staff. I partner with businesses throughout the Monongalia County, and it gives them, 20% off at Terra Cafe with a free coffee here or there, nail services, hair services, boutique services, just to kind of remind the public that teachers are humans. We are real
Yeah.
people, and we enjoy, going to the Wow Factory with our family, or we enjoy going bowling or getting coffee. And I think when we kind of humanize the teacher aspect
Yeah.
and kind of boost them in that way, it does build an appreciation. Is that going to retain teachers? I mean, we know it's not going to be the retention piece.
Appreciation goes a long way.
Appreciation and really building that community piece. When I partner with businesses, I hear people say all the time, "Oh my goodness, we'd do anything for teachers." And I get to hear those conversations, but our teachers aren't privy to that. And I tell teachers all the time, if you could hear a conversation that I have with a business owner, I just called a pizza shop to get some discounts on pizzas, and they said, "My mom was a teacher. I know how she dedicated her whole life to her students.
Yeah.
We will do anything that you need." I want to replicate that for teachers and just kind of spread that through the community, because a community that supports education is a community that grows.
Right.
Yeah, absolutely. How can parents get more involved just on a day-to-day basis, right?
Sure. I say support. Reinforcement at home is really the best way that you can help with your teacher, and help education and as in general. Go to PTO meetings. It's that simple. Get involved.
Yeah.
We have plenty of I was an open door. Do read alouds, come in, talk to the kids, group work, group activities. We welcome parents. Support, your local LSIC. We have these school councils in which, there are business people that help plan. Like, what is the foundation of this school? What are we looking at? How can we grow? Those LSICs are so important. Become involved with the local school board. If you're a business owner and you want to help donate to Boost, give me a call. I mean, I think there are so many just simple ways. I think that, people think these grandiose ideas, but it is really just as simple as going to a PTO meeting.
We do that.
Yeah.
We definitely try to come up with this grand solution, and most often it's just a simple thing.
Right.
Yeah.
It's all it takes most often.
Every
The
school,
1% mentality, right? Like, just do a little thing every day.
Every school has business partners. Call your local school and ask how you can be a business partner. At Eastwood, we have a business that donates bikes to our students. They're a local bike shop. They donate bikes. That's a great thing that you can do. We have students that don't have bikes. We have students, any way that you can be a positive influence in the life of a child.
Yeah.
You're going to be solid.
I tell you, my wife has always volunteered in the schools, and because she volunteers, I volunteer.
Is she the homeroom mom?
Right. But it is rather interesting to see. We talked about this before the show, just to see how things function behind the scenes. Most often, we're the observers. We're outside looking in, but we don't understand the struggles. I mean, you talk about teacher burnout, and that's a very, very true observation statement. And so, getting involved to help, right? It's easy to criticize. It's harder to get involved and actually make a change for a significant difference in a child's life. So I highly encourage everyone to reach out. You're right. PTO is an easy way. I mean, they have meetings all the time. Just get in there, see what it's like, see how you can help.
Yep,
right?
absolutely.
I'm telling you, what better way to show your child that you're interested in their academic career and education by volunteering in the schools.
And I think you said something else, and I really like that piece when you said appreciation goes a long way. It really does. When's the last time you just said thank you to your teacher, I mean, sometimes I'll get a Starbucks gift card or something in the folder, but it's really not about the gift. It's about I really appreciate what you're doing with my child. I saw what you did with my kiddo, or that kudos you gave, or that pat on the back, or that hug. That really meant a lot. I think appreciation is something that we don't talk a lot about, and something that if we it would spread, it would ripple across.
It would.
Every teacher listening, we appreciate you greatly. I have 4 teachers in mind right now that have just made such a great impact for me in K through 12.
Awesome.
And
You're going to call them later, aren't you?
Yes, I am. Actually, I am.
Good. All right. Very good.
Yeah, but let's kind of shift into the use of technology in the classroom. And do you feel that the students or kids now are being well prepared for higher education or the career, starting a career, even if they don't go to higher education?
I will say I have to preface this, the bulk of my teaching career has been in Monongalia County. So, when I'm speaking about public education, it's a different version looking at Monongalia County because the resources that we have. Do I think that our kids here in Monongalia County are prepared? Absolutely. My students at Eastwood, we were coding when they were 5.
Oh, wow.
We're starting intro coding at 5. So I think that the amount of resources that are poured into this county, our kids are doing a great job technology-wise. It's just the use of technology per teacher and how they really use that. I think technology needs to be purposeful. I think it needs to be done with the utmost respect. Digital citizenship is something huge that we start in kindergarten and kind of build on as they get older. But I think there has to be that purposeful piece when we're using technology in our classrooms.
Yeah. I know that there's some challenges that are faced with like personal devices.
Absolutely, right.
I don't know how far we want to, get into this because I know it's kind of a sensitive
it's a new
topic,
thing,
but
yeah.
Hey, it's something that I think
here.
is very relevant. It's here and it's unavoidable.
No, I work for some really smart people at our board office. And, one of the book studies we just did was Dr. Jonathan Haidt, and it's The Anxious Generation. Mm-hmm. And that's where a lot of this conversation started from. If we're looking at levels of anxiety and depression since 2010, which was the, when we saw the smartphone being first used, our 18 to 25-year-olds have seen an 140% increase in their anxiety and depression. And so when we were looking at all of this data and just, Dr. Haight's book and the Surgeon General's warning and all, it was just very timely for the decision to be made to, to lock up the smartphones during the school day and to just really reduce the distractibility. I've been doing some interviews with our students in the high school level and teachers, and I have heard no complaints. It's very odd. When this came out, I thought, oh my gosh. As the public relation coordinator, I'm ready.
Like, here we
go. We have just seen, I did a really good interview with a student yesterday, and she said, I'm really like making memories with my friends. She's like, not like making memories and held up like a phone, but she's like, I'm like making memories. And I thought, wow, that's a really good way of saying it. The kids are living their life. I think, when we have the glowing rectangle in our school day, and that cell phone distraction, our kids weren't really experiencing life. And of course, the teachers are extremely excited. One of the teachers I spoke with a couple weeks ago said she has gotten through so much more content because the phones are away. Kids are asking questions. The engagement is just the increased engagement itself is a lot. And, I'm so glad that I didn't grow up with technology in that way in terms of cell phones. I would not have done well. Social media would not have been a friend to teenage Amber. So I can't imagine what that would look like. Right. I mean, I have teenage, children, so I know, especially our girls. When we looked at a lot of the data, in terms of cell phone usage, it was much more affecting our girls. And so, as a strong woman and wanting to have a generation follow me of strong women, I was definitely following this research with wide eyes. And as a school system, I think it would have been a tragedy had we not done something and not addressed it the way that we did.
Yeah, I agree, and I was really curious about that genuinely.
Yeah.
So
I love talking about that.
Yeah, I'm expecting my first baby, so I'm going to have a stake in the game, right? But no, this was super impactful, I think, and hopefully everybody listening, can take something from that community aspect and just doing that 1%. To really affect change.
I love that.
Yeah.
Get
Even
ready.
If you have a kid or not, right?
Yeah.
So
as a parent, I'm learning so much. I have watched my, my social media use, how much I'm on my phone when I'm talking to my children. I'm really putting it away. I'm focusing. I want them to know that I'm focusing on them, in terms of just like charging their phones in their room. I was sure you can charge your phone in your room, and just the studies and what I've read and doing this book study at the board office. No, now my kids are charging their phones outside of their bedroom, and just little things that you can do that I think really make a huge difference.
Yeah.
I think you said another important thing that there really isn't a book here, right? There really isn't, and we're all learning together, right? And I had a sit down with my 16-year-old.
Okay.
And, we were talking, and I was like, son, it's like, we don't have a book that we follow, right? We're all learning this together.
Yeah.
And I think that's important. It's like, there's never going to be the right decision for 100% of the people, right?
Yeah.
But if we can at least acknowledge that we're trying to affect change by these decisions and making it better for our children's lives, I think it's incumbent upon all of us to give it a chance.
Yes.
Give it a chance. I have one more question. I have a question to ask you.
Yeah.
And I'm curious about the differences between pre-COVID and post-COVID in the classroom. And I know that, with even with the state test scores that came out here over last month.
Sure.
And, we're still trying to achieve the pre-COVID numbers that we did. What has been the hardest thing to get it going again? What has been that difficult challenge for our educators, whether it's board of education all the way down to the teachers at the K through 12 level? What has been the hardest thing to get back on track?
I think personally for me as an early childhood educator, I put it into context this way. Play is the most natural thing that we do as humans, right? Like when you see children, they're playing, they learn their communication skills, their interpersonal, their conflict resolution. Kids learn through play. Post-COVID, I was teaching children how to play because they did not have interactions with anyone outside of their home, and so it's very difficult to move forward in education when you're having to scale back to the point where we were basically working with basic communication skills and learning those in the classroom. And people say, well, that doesn't equate to test scores. It absolutely equates to test scores.
I would disagree with that one too.
And it's so funny to me how, in having conversations with people, well, they had access to technology. They were reading, they were doing. If you don't have those interpersonal skills, conflict resolution, just executive functioning, how to organize your day, if you don't have those in place, you will not be able to succeed in the classroom. And so really having to scale back. And I would say, I was in the classroom through last year. We were starting to see that catch back up. But those first few years, I was actually, I can't describe to you how I had to teach children how to interact with one another. But you have to think, back to those days when we had to stay 6 feet apart in a kindergarten classroom, which is virtually impossible, by the way. Right. And how you're teaching kids to play from across the room, that was difficult as well. So I think, we are starting to see that rebound, but it was a slow start getting back to, and then you think, those kids are behind. I'm sending them through to first grade and they just have, the skills that usually our 3 to 4 year olds would have. You're going to see that. And I think, giving everyone grace and kind of calming down and, we could do this knee-jerk reaction where we skip these steps, but in turn, that's not what's best for kids. Yeah. And so I think we knew, we didn't know all of the pieces, right? No one knew all of the pieces, but as an educator, I am very well versed in child development. I mean, that's my passion. Yeah. So I knew skipping the steps wasn't correct, but I knew going backwards was going to kind of build this anxiety and impatience in parents and society. But I think, educators did what they knew was best, and we kind of scaled back, and, we are starting to see now the rebound and coming back. There were some bright spots from our scores. There were some not bright spots, across the state. And I think, we have a good plan moving forward.
Right. What are you most excited about moving forward? What's up next for you?
I think the focus for me in this role is really just building up our teachers, really talking about teacher retention, and really highlighting the great things that are going on in Monongalia County. Like being the storyteller for public education in Monongalia County is so cool. Like being Teacher of the Year was awesome, but I'm so excited to tell you all the stories that are going on and pushing that out on social media and just going around and telling stories about the cool things. Like our National Merit Scholar finalists that we have, holy cow. Like these people are going to go on and rule the world. Yeah. But then we've also got some just really cool gardening things that are going on at North Elementary. Just the cool stories that people don't know.
That needs to be shared.
Yeah.
Right? It's like we so focus on the negatives. All the test scores are low. Right. But there are so many great things that are happening here in the state. It's not just North Central West Virginia.
Right.
Everywhere in the state.
Sure.
I think we have to have much more of an emphasis on the positive things that
Yeah.
people simply don't know about.
Yes.
Right. And, they could be logged in some obscure article someplace, but we need people like you stand up, raise your voice as loud as you can and talk about those things. Because I think at the end of the day, inspiration is one of those things where our children need to understand or have something that they aspire to be. And if we always keep those type of things in the shadows, they will never be inspired, right? So I do hope that, us here at Trilogy, from what we do from an education perspective, and I'd love to get your thoughts later on about how we can do better as an organization.
Okay.
We have, to me, Trilogy owes everything to the local communities. Everything that we are and everything we're about was forged based upon our interactions with the community. How can we do more? How can we do more to help you, the children, and so forth, get to a pinnacle that it's going to separate the state from everyone else, right?
That gives me chill bumps because I wish that every business community felt the same way. Like, that is great that you're just like chomping at the bit to get into our schools and to help our kids, because it's businesses like that that are going to show our students, I want to stay here. I want to work for them. Yeah. I saw them in my school. Yeah. I saw what they did for my friend, or I saw what they provided for I saw them in my classroom. That's what's going to keep our kids here. I mean, we can do a lot of things, but it's that interpersonal piece that's what's going to keep our kids here in the state of West Virginia. Yeah. And that's what we want.
Yeah. And Brandon, between you and Randy, you all have invested so much on Trilogy's behalf locally.
Absolutely.
And so, I hate to say shameless plug, but
but it's one of those things. Just like, man, I know we can do more.
Yeah.
It's like that's great, but we can do more.
Yeah.
Right. And we should do more.
Yeah.
We should do. Right.
When we take that even past, like when we hire people, that's part of the opportunity that they have coming to Trilogy, and that's why our retention rate is 13% higher than anywhere in the country. So we're at a 96% retention rate. And a lot of the feedback that it comes from is continuing that education. We don't stop learning after we finish school. It's a continuous process, and that professional development side that we provide has really shown that is impactful for people, giving them the opportunities, promoting internally, and getting certifications and continuing education. To have that advocacy from leadership is where it starts.
Yes,
so
I agree with that. Definitely. That's awesome.
Yeah.
Kudos to you guys.
Thank you.
Do the plug.
You too.
Do the plug.
Absolutely. We have to, right?
Do it.
Yeah.
Do it.
So
it's your podcast.
Yeah,
and you
exactly.
should. I love it. No, and I mean, what we were talking about, how you've been focusing on education. To me, obviously, I'm the poster child for public education in West Virginia, but the fact that you are invested in education and are reaching out, that speaks volumes.
Yeah.
It speaks volumes.
Excellent. Well, this has been a great conversation.
Yes.
It really
has been.
This is good.
Inspiring.
I know, right?
Yeah, let's
I'm ready to
do
go out there
it.
and do things.
I agree. 100%.
Well, I will tell you that one thing, and I think we talked about it earlier, but I think being a representative for West Virginia in any way that you can nationally makes you feel good, right? I'm sure on your business side in terms of going out, but the one piece in my Teacher of the Year that I definitely want to touch on before we end is sitting in the Rose Garden at the White House. And how impactful that was for this Doddridge County Head Start kid to have a seat in the Rose Garden with my name on it, to have the President of the United States call my name, and what that felt like to carry every West Virginia child on my back at that moment. Whether you are the impoverished kid that lives in the middle of nowhere and you're wondering what you're going to do with your life, or if you're the kid at the front of the class and you can't wait to, embark on your secondary education, the gamut. I was representing every single student in West Virginia and carrying them on my back in the Rose Garden. And that will forever touch, my heart, my work, my place in this world, the impact that left on me.
Like I said, inspirational.
Yeah,
that's it. That's it.
I'm inspired. I have cold chills. I'm loving it. That's awesome.
That's cool.
This was such a good conversation.
Yeah,
thank you so much, Amber.
Thank you
Appreciate
guys.
you
everything.
coming
Nope,
in.
appreciate you and what you're
Great
doing.
conversation.
Yay.
Awesome. Well, y'all have a great day. Thanks for
Definitely.
tuning in, and we'll see you next time.
Bye.